Do you know who you're voting for this election?
Because I don't, and the election is around the corner, so it is time to figure it out.
This is the Are We Wrong podcast.
I'm AI Norman.
I'm Demi Chang, and we're comedians in Austin, Texas.
We've decided that we're the best people to help you figure out who you should vote for.
Every episode, we have a guest come on to help us think through an election issue.
We'll then each say who we think we'll be aligned with on that issue.
Then we'll explore each topic in detail and be as candid as you wish you could.
And then we'll vote again to see who we think we align with after the discussion.
Are we wrong? Are we right? Let us know in the comments what you think we got right or wrong.
And if you want to tell us what we get wrong in person, you can do that at our live show, our live Are We Wrong show on October 26th at 8 p.m. here in Austin, Texas at Something Cool Studios. We'll have on special guests to help us with each of the issues we still haven't done yet by the time of the show, and they're going to help us figure it out.
Tickets are available now at arewewrong.eventbrite.com or at the link below.
Hope to see you there. Jason Vest is here with us today. Jason, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
My name is Jason Vest. I'm a retired veteran. I spent 20 years in the military. I'm a professional content creator and stand-up comic, semi-professional stand-up comic.
I noticed that you say military, but don't mention the branch.
Well, I just be specific.
Are you like one of the bad ones?
No, I was in the bad one. I was in the National Guard.
Yeah,
that's
what
like
I
the
was getting
Diet
at.
Coke of the military.
Wasn't Coast Guard? Is that part of the
Even
National Guard?
Coast Guard is more relevant than the National Guard.
Oh, because National Guard's kind of the ones where you're like fake soldiers.
1 weekend a month,
Yeah.
2 weeks annually. I worked full-time for the National Guard. That was like my full-time job. They have an element that does full-time stuff for the Guard, but yeah, I was in the National Guard full-time for 20 years.
Wait a minute.
Wait, but do you not say Army? Well, I guess because it's separate, but it's...
It's Army National Guard and there's the Air National Guard.
Which
There's
one
two.
were you?
I was in the Army National Guard.
Okay.
I was a recruiter for the Army National Guard. That's what I did before.
I was in the
all
Marine
of it.
Corps, so it's all irrelevant.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, yeah. Thank you all for your service. I'm surrounded by veterans.
You are. Wow.
Well, you have our...
I would have, but my family doesn't like Army stuff. Although, so one of my brothers eventually rebelled and did it. But
You would be really good.
I actually really wanted to go to basic training. I really wanted that. I think that would have helped me in my development as a person.
I think basic training is like the best thing like about the military.
Yes.
Could I still do that? Do you, when you start with the National Guard, do you start with 2 weekends a month and like how does it?
You join and then you go to basic training and then you come back from basic
How
training.
long is basic training?
It is 9 weeks, and then depends on the skill that you get. Like I was a medical specialist, so mine was 17 weeks long plus the 9 weeks training. Then you go home and you resume to your unit, and you just do your 1 weekend a month.
So
That's
9
what I
weeks
wanted to
and
do.
then 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. That sounds like a camp
48
getaway.
days a year.
That's what I tried to do, and then they got me.
Kind of like a religion too, like kind of thing. Oh, how young do you have to be in the National Guard?
You can be 17, and I think you can be, and don't quote me on this, I think they can waive up to 40 now.
So I have just enough time.
Well, remember JT
Uh-huh.
was trying to... do you know JT? Mm-hmm. He wanted to join, but then he realized he couldn't for some reason, so he tried to make his wife join, and she's like, fuck no.
Right. Maybe I'll join.
I'd
9
see that
weeks? I've always wanted to do basic training. Maybe this is one of those better late than never
Yeah,
things.
you'll get so much material.
The Guard
That's
is
what I'm
probably
thinking.
the best
And
way
I'm
to do
trying
it.
to get buff right now. Should I
There's
do
a
it?
lot of lesbians.
And a lot of
But you're not going to get buff in basic training.
Well,
You
you're-
get
I was
skinny.
gonna say I'm
You're in a
straight.
relation-
What am I? Yeah, I'm taken.
You're in a, well, I just think it's, the don't ask, don't tell thing was a whole,
So hot. I wish we were still in those times. I would much rather be single in the don't ask, don't tell times. Oh, that's good stuff.
yeah. But when I was in going through training, we had like bunk beds, racks, and like every rack had at least one lesbian. If we had no lesbians,
They had to split you up.
we would have nobody.
I joined the military so long ago. It was before Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And they had it on the paperwork, or maybe Don't Ask. I joined in 96. So I don't know if they...
It was around then.
But they still had it on the enlistment paperwork. I had to check and initial that I wasn't homosexual.
That's hot.
And they said they are, and I'm like, even as a kid at 17, you're like, wow, this is intense.
It's so
Yeah.
intense. It's also kind of like when they ask you, well, before, pre 9/11, when they asked you if you had any bombs in your suitcase before you went on the plane, though, it's like, I wonder which the right answer is.
I had an Army friend, he's a comedian too, he does a lot of jokes about that. And didn't you have to say whether you've ever had anything like in your butt.
Because that way, because it's just like when you would give blood, they would ask you, have you
It's the
had gay
same type of
sex or
questions.
prison sex since 1979 or something? But it is that because they don't want you to be giving AIDS to your brothers when you fuck each other in the ass in the army. So they need to make sure no one brings AIDS in.
Like
Because y'all are going to be exchanging so many fluids out there that...
In the cupcakes.
And there could be blood and cum and cupcakes. Just
I recruited this couple, 2 girls, one time when I was a recruiter.
a couple, like a lesbian couple.
They were together, joining the same day, and they're still in actually.
Oh wow!
And
Are they still together?
And drove these 2 girls down to enlist, and they were like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Do you have any kind of piercings in? Because you have to ask like anything." And they're like, "You gotta pull over." You got to pull over at a rest area. And like the girl couldn't get it out. And she's like, yeah, I had to help her get it out. And I'm like, that's so hot.
But wait, they were getting it out of her clit?
She couldn't get her clit ring out. So she had to have her girl do it in a rest area bathroom.
So wait, the military's going to check your clit for piercings?
You can't have any kind of piercing. So
Metal
dudes
detector? Or?
Prince Albert, none of that
But
shit.
I mean, is someone going to look?
Yeah, do they check?
They popped the hood. When you joined, didn't they like... So you're a girl?
No, but when you do pee tests, they do watch the urine leave the body. But I think you could have hid. I mean, I got a tattoo removed to join, but I have a friend who he had a lip tattoo, and he cut it out of his own lip before he went to OCS.
JT was going to have to do that. Okay, he didn't get that far to realizing how much he was going to have to cut off his body.
What?
I don't know if they would have found that.
You get completely naked when you join. So that was what I retired as. I worked at the MEPS. That was my job.
Duck walk.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to do a duck walk. They're going to make sure you're a dude or a girl. They're going to look at your butthole. Don't you remember spreading your
They
cheeks?
didn't look at my butthole.
They looked at your butthole, didn't they?
Maybe they only look at the boys' buttholes.
We duck walked in our underwear.
Can women not get hemorrhoids?
I think we can.
I'm wondering why they're looking
Wait, I don't think anyone looked.
The hemorrhoid ceiling.
I don't think anyone looked at my butthole.
I hope not. You guys are dissuading me from joining the National Guard with all this butthole checking.
They didn't check my butthole.
Do I need to be off of drugs for?
Oh yeah.
Like no weed for?
No weed.
Yeah.
But what about for the rest of my life? Do they drug test me or?
Okay.
Well, here's the trick. You have to say, I tried weed one time on this date for experimental use only. I had to have that waiver. I went all the way to MEPS, did the thing, and then I was scared they're gonna do the hair test, which they don't do. And then I freaked out and I told the truth. This is always the
You guys had bad recruiters. I would tell these kids to lie through their teeth. I'd be like, you didn't get arrested. You didn't smoke marijuana 1,000 times. You've never taken Adderall. I was the shadiest recruiter. I would put people in that shouldn't have been in. Like I was the guy they called, hey, I got this guy. I was that guy.
All right. Well, hey, what topic are we doing here today? Guns.
Guns.
We're doing guns. The rights to bear, Second Amendment. I think it's an issue that's still relevant. I mean, it's so crazy because just a couple years ago, we were always going gun control laws. Well, all the kids are dying. And now I feel like we're just too busy with a bunch of other people are still killing each other.
Busy with the trans stuff.
Busy with trans. Oh, we've got these wars that are crazy everywhere. Like there's just, I think everyone's kind of lost interest in the kids dying in schools.
We don't have time. We don't have time for the guns. We had to throw away our Ukraine flags and our gun worries, and we had to replace it with the new hot button issues.
Right, but I guess it's still an issue because I do hear that still every now and then that like Kamala's going to take our guns. I've heard that.
But she's got a big old Glock.
But she's now like I like.
I mean, she's pretty open about it. She's been one of the first, I think, left candidates ever that's been like, I own a gun. And Waltz, you see him. Yeah. Kind of look a little staged, but you see he's like, I'm a hunter. Yeah. I think it's funny how everybody in politics now is a hunter. Like Kamala's like, I got a Glock, and then Trump, I go hunt elk. You know, it's like, I don't know 5 people that hunt.
So she can have a gun on her. I love the idea of that. Like, okay, I want my Secret Service, but I also have my Glock. So
she doesn't have her Glock.
Well, I want her to. But okay. So let's say, just in terms of gun control, gun legislation, gun rights, which candidate do we think we will most align with? Hold up your answers now. Okay, 2 Kamala, 1 Trump.
Wait.
But yeah, I'm sorry, I had it wrong. Trump.
Oh, okay. I have no idea what their policies are.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm like, yeah, if she has a gun, maybe.
I just assume.
I want some kind of gun control, if anything, makes sense, but I don't know what makes sense. Because every time I hear the liberals go, hey, we had another school shooting. What if we got rid of bump stocks? Or what if we got rid of AR-15? Or what if we get rid of a semi on him? I don't know all the terms, obviously. But there's always something that they go, this is a common sense thing. And then I listen to a Republican type podcast and they're like, well, this is all the reasons why that wouldn't help anything anyway. And so I'm like, does anyone, like, if the Democrats have any good ideas to try to clean up, especially all the illegal guns, the unregistered guns in the dangerous parts of the country or something.
Yeah, I kind of want to understand it better because we were talking a little about, like, before we started recording and, when you talk about, common sense gun control and all this stuff, and it might be common sense to one person, but then, like, my friend who's even more conservative would say, like, don't even start talking like that. It's a slippery slope, and that's how you end up with.
I think
blah, blah,
some
blah.
people get hypersensitive to it because they think that their right is being taken away. So, like, hey, my right to bear arms in the Constitution. They hear that, right to bear arms, it's my right.
We don't like losing stuff.
No, nobody likes losing. So when you start telling people they're going to take your guns and they're going to, these are my rights. But it's like, I don't think anybody's ever tried to once take the guns. Who's ever tried to take, when has there ever been a roundup?
I did see the phrase mandatory gun buyback in a Kamala related thing somewhere. So that's when I was like, what is this mandatory buyback situation? Because that was like, she said, we're not taking your guns. No one's taking your guns. And then I saw something the next day where someone was fact checking and they showed like a little blurb that was like, oh yeah, well, Kamala supports, or at least at one time supported a mandatory. What are these mandatory buybacks? Do you know?
I think it's probably when you peel down the mandatory buyback, it's more in like areas where there's a lot of illegal guns and they're buying back guns that shouldn't be on the street. I don't think they're buying guns. I don't think that
registered,
unregistered,
people,
serial numbers filed off. When I hear that, that's what I think is guns that shouldn't be on the street. Those are the ones they're getting, and that's what I support.
That sounds good.
What's the rate for the buyback? Like, what if you just do
you get your money
end
back?
up doing gun arbitrage and you're just buying illegal guns and you're like, come and get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Make a rate.
Make a profit.
Come and take it for a price.
I don't think anybody's real. I don't think those programs are massively successul because, I mean, if I'm a criminal and I have a gun that I don't want someone to know about, the last thing I'm going to do is take that gun to the police.
Right. And it can't be mandatory if you just have to go volunteer it. Like,
what do you guys think of the phrase, guns don't kill people? Or wait, some people think guns kill people.
Guns kill people, people don't kill people.
But people kill people.
Well, it is harder if you have a knife to kill as many people as when you have a gun. And so we do see that our numbers in these incidents are higher than countries without guns.
They're coming for us.
Yeah.
That's it. We're talking about.
We shouldn't have talked about this. The SWAT team.
It's the NRA.
It's crazy how people call the SWAT team on people. That's insane.
Can you specifically call the SWAT team versus the cops and then they choose to send the SWAT team?
It's called swatting.
All this gun talk.
Yeah.
It must be plotting something.
Yeah. Wait. So what were we saying?
I don't know. I guess just like the mental health aspect.
Oh, guns kill people, or do people kill people? You can kill more people faster with a gun.
Yeah.
If you're a decent aim and you don't lose it in the moment. It is kind of amazing. A lot of people have made jokes about this, about how like the numbers are actually like weirdly low for how many people you're getting with when some of these people have all kinds of guns and you think they could kill more kids. I do think that even with a kind of fucked up kid, like there's still some amount of it's kind of hard.
Yeah, they don't realize there's a recoil.
A recoil, but also just the whole like the adrenaline, the oh my God, I'm doing this. Like it's probably not that easy for these kids to be like cold, calm, and composed and be like,
it's not. I mean, you look at like back in the day, like you talk to my grandpa used to tell me they taught how to shoot a gun in school. That was part of curriculum, like in the olden times. And we got so far away from that. So now some people, if they see a gun, they freak out.
Yeah.
Like if my wife sees a gun, she is freaking out. Won't even hold one.
Yeah.
I tried to get her to go shooting one time with a friend of mine. My wife's like, she was visibly crying. She was like, I just, no.
Yeah, I have a film. I've been doing like some film stuff around Austin. I don't know if I don't know if she'll see this. But yeah, she's very sensitive about it. And we were showing a film where someone had guns in the film, and then she was like, oh, she told her partner, can you get the kids out of here? I don't want them to see the GUNS. And like wouldn't even say the word. And then in the film we had a firearm, and she wanted to spray paint like this little pink squirt gun. And then someone else ended up, he was like, no. He brought in his actual gun and like gave a safety brief and made sure it was, was acting as the armor and everything.
That kind of makes sense to me, because when I was a kid, I feel like that the public education system did instill in me this idea of guns bad. And I mean, I'm from Houston, so definitely in the city and not the country. And it was kind of the same way that we were just kind of given Martin Luther King's vision of the world. And we just were all like, hey, that's what we all do. Racism's stupid, that was kind of also the message, like guns bad. And so, and maybe, it just all depends, right? Because in the city, guns are dangerous. In the country, you need them because of not just hunting, but like if someone's at your property, if there's a coyote or something, the cops aren't going to be able to make it in time, and you have to have guns in the country. And so I wonder, but it does feel like one of those liberal indoctrination things a little bit, but maybe that was the vibe, as much as they are teaching a lot of kids now about the genderbread person or whatever. Oh. Now, well, we'll get to that some other time.
Wait, did you say gingerbread or
the genderbread?
Genderbread. I'm like,
genderbread.
wow.
It's a whole thing. But now at least when I was growing up, they did teach us like guns bad, scary. Even if you have a gun, you're probably it's like how trans kids are probably gonna off themselves. They were like, if you have a gun in the house, you are more likely than drowning in a pool. You're probably gonna get it, even if it's in a safe, what if there's a bullet in it? Like there was a lot of fear of, if there is a gun in the house, you are not safe. You may as well have a parent who smokes.
Well, I kind of follow that rule for other reasons. I do not own a firearm. I have tried to joke about this. It's pretty dark, but I don't trust myself, because there's been times where you drink and then you're just like, I don't want to be here anymore. And so I was going to ask about the delay thing, because sometimes people say, well, there should be a delay. You shouldn't be able to be like, I'm in a bad mood, I'm going to go buy one.
I agree. I don't think there being a waiting period. I don't think that there's a problem with a mental health check. I think the gun problem, especially pertaining to the school shooting, is a deeper issue of a mental health crisis. It is. Yeah. These kids are afraid to talk about whatever they want to talk about. That's why they've got all this pent-up anger and they go shoot up a school.
And they need to be having more interactions in person and less on TikTok. Yeah. And we've been medicating now for 20, 30 years. We've been extremely over medicating all these kids, especially the boys. Just the amounts of Ritalin and Adderall alone, much less they're putting 7-year-olds on Prozac and stuff now. I mean, and Lexapro. I mean, it's crazy. And so, and then sometimes, what you have to look at is, did that kid stop taking his pills 2 weeks before the incident? And because that's like, you got all this stuff, and then that's when a lot of this stuff happens. And I can't remember, because I got into some kind of Instagram fight, but I forget what the incident was even about. But that's the point that I was making, is like, yes, it's not just about what drugs they're on. It's about what drugs they were on that they're now in withdrawal from, because you gave them those in the first place. That's now led to this like crazy serotonin, depression or whatever. And now,
or just like the parents, there's a case going on in Michigan right now where a young man went and shot up a school in Rochester Hills, Michigan, killed a bunch of people, and the parents got prosecuted as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were the ones that provided the firearm. Yeah. And if you look at the whole, and I think a lot of times everybody goes after the parents, everybody goes after the people that own the gun, but they don't ever go after the school. A lot of times when you start peeling back these school shootings, they could have been prevented. This one in Rochester Hills, the kid had a story that he had wrote about killing people. It made its way to the school. The parents got called in, and the parents go, boys will be boys, keep him in school. They should have sent that kid home. They didn't send that kid home that day, and he went out and shot up.
Well, did he seem weird?
What?
Did he seem weird too?
They're all the same. At least the school shooters are all the same profile. I mean, I was that emo goth kid in school. I was that guy, but I was a school shooter all day.
Used it productively.
Yeah.
But of a weirdo kid, I think the weirdo kid plus, because I mean, not that I wasn't a little bit weird in school, but I don't think I came off, and I'm a female, so it does change things. But I drew a cartoon when I was in high school, like a junior in high school. There was a cartoon, and it was about like a former high school student shooting a teacher that we all had. But it was like a joke, because I had started drawing these little funny cartoons, and the teachers were kind of aware. Sometimes I would draw something on the board. No, I know, but it was in my notebook, and it wasn't really supposed to be, something that someone saw, but I had drawn it for myself on a day. I was particularly mad at this, but I would never, like kill anyone, but I was just particularly mad, and I was upset at this obnoxious teacher, and just drew this little joke. And fortunately, people are kind of squirrel-like looking, and like the way I draw is so silly that it's not like this was like a lifelike kind of potato people, pre-potato people, but kind of that. And so. But there was this teacher who made us turn in our notebooks twice a year or something, just with everything. And so it had all the regular like school stuff, but then it also, in the middle, there's just these doodles, because I wasn't ever thinking anyway, so they found that. The teacher found it, and it was a whole to-do with the, principal, whatever. But they didn't, suspend me. I think they gave me some Saturday school a couple of days. And they, my parents came in and talked. And of course, it's like that conversation between the parents and like, this is serious. Like, we're supposed to technically suspend you, whatever, you drew this thing, and but because I'm female, because I'm a European heritage person, because my parents advocated, because I never had any, and because I'm an AP student, all that kind of stuff. Then you go, all right, she's not really, I've never held it, I was so whatever gun. But if it's a weirdo guy who's like kind of an incel vibe,
but it's hard, because sometimes those things happen, and then they're like, okay, we forgive you. But then something does happen, and then they look back, oh yeah, we did confiscate that notebook.
This story in Rochester Hills, the kid was killing animals.
Well,
like they were doing
that's
all this stuff.
That's literally,
we know about the dark tribe.
All right.
Yeah, it was killing animals. And what was one of the other ones? His mom, after his parents showed up to the school, got him out of hock with the school, and he was released back to class. She sent him a text message, "Don't get caught next time." And seconds later, that young man went and unleashed some terror.
Deserves to. Probably.
They do, but I just think like a lot of the school shooting issues, it's so bigger than just the gun is the vehicle.
What do you guys?
What's the problem? That's not the problem.
Yeah, there are a lot of other issues. I do think desensitization to violence is happening, and it's not to blame. Like when people are like, oh, it's because of the video games. But it does kind of surprise me sometimes what we feel desensitized to the more you see it. And like,
I don't think it's the video games.
I don't think it is, but it makes it bridges the gap. I don't think there's a direct correlation, but sometimes, I don't know. They made fun of me the first episode because I was saying like, oh, I was surprised there's sex in Bridgerton, and they're like, that wasn't even that sexual. But just what kids are exposed to, and like that mom I talked about where she's like, don't let the kids see the GUNS. But if you turn on anything, you see people's heads being blown off.
Especially this time of year. Gun, yeah. Ukraine, Iran, Israel.
Oh, I thought you meant because Halloween. Because I went through a haunted house, my first haunted house the other day, and it was very gory, and people had brought their kids, and I know a lot of kids like that stuff. But it was so gory, and you're like, oh, I can kind of tell like it's fake, so it's not that bad. But if you're just seeing that all the time, like, oh yeah, this person was disemboweled, that person's headless, that person's hanging, that person's whatever.
And you can find all those videos, like of the Columbine shooting, you can find the unedited you can find the unedited cam footage from like you can hear them laughing. It's fucked up.
Oh, I want to see that.
It is. I had to see it.
Where is it? We talked about how do you get to the dark web.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I don't know how to get to the dark web, but did you see that movie Elephant that MTV made about it was basically just a narrative, like look at that, like a fictionalized account, but it seemed pretty true to basically the whole Columbine story. I mean, I could be wrong about how true, whatever, but that was the idea, that it was basically that. And it was one of the most haunting. First of all, they're playing Moonlight Sonata like the entire time that they're shooting it, and then like at the end there's just these moments anyway, but it was one of the most haunting. I mean, I guess I saw that when I was 16 or 17, but now just because I've seen that, I feel like now I have to watch the real one.
Was that before or after the Doodle?
The Doodle?
Yeah.
Oh, good question.
Eyelash. falling off.
That was after. It was after the. I don't think so. Okay, so what do we want gun laws to be, or?
I think there needs to be a process. There needs to be a process to obtaining one. There needs to be background checks. I think that, you should have to have, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people are going to be mad at me for saying this because they think I go one way or other. I think you should have to have a mental health evaluation. Yeah. That should be conducted by a third party, and then you should be able to take that, and I think you should have to recertify every year. I do. If you want a gun, there's no one's keeping you from owning it. It's just,
it's like a car.
It's like a car.
I like the idea of it being kind of like a car in that you have to have the paper stuff, in that you know how to use it, the safety rules, all the whatever weapons conditions, or maybe not weapons conditions. Well, if you own it, you probably should. And then the physical, know how to handle it. And then, I don't know.
So you get your gun inspected every year?
Yes. I wholeheartedly. It's like when I was a recruiter, there was recruiting offices getting shot up during the Iraq War. And I was one of those offices. And so they told everyone that if they had a permit, these are military members in uniform during this time until our office got fortified, they could carry. I watched a guy that had only ever held a gun in the military go out and buy a handgun. And now this guy's running around with a handgun. The minimum, classes, this, that, doesn't go to the range. And I'm like, dude ended up firing a gun in the recruiting office, like despot. In the recruiting office because he didn't know how to use it. And so my thing is all for people owning them. I just think that there should have a process to obtain it, and like training and certification.
Yeah, people should know how to use it. I don't understand why anyone would get mad at anyone for saying you should know how to use it if you own it.
Yeah, that's where I land. Look, guns and cars are both things that can kill people pretty easily. And so we want to have some safety checks on who we're giving those to and make sure. Yeah, because if the gun's not inspected, just like a car's emissions might be a problem, or it might not, the lights might not work and now you're not signaling to people. Like a gun could backfire wrong or something if it's like dirt. Isn't there kind of bad stuff that can happen if it's fucking...
Yeah, and if you're not cleaning it, if you're not...
Burn your hand off.
Or taking care of it. Yeah.
And there are people who, I know a lot of car guys, and you can buy collectibles. You're like, I'm not going to drive that car. I'm just collecting it.
Right, so you don't have to
fire that gun. But if you intend on firing it, you should make sure it's serviceable and all that.
And my question is, these school shootings, how are these people even making it that far? Like, I'm all for the gun laws, but I'm all for barricading the hell out of schools.
Well, that's the other thing I was thinking about, because there's two types, right? Because I was thinking about Uvalde, because there's one type, and I would love to see the percentages. One type where it's like a student or something, a disgruntled whatever, and you're shooting your peers and your teachers. But then there's what I think is pure evil, like Uvalde, where you're like, oh, I'm not in a school right now, but I'm gonna walk down the street to the school and shoot up a bunch of kids that I don't even know.
Sandy Hook, same thing.
Sandy Hook, yeah. Yeah. So in that case, I think maybe some schools are upping security. And then sometimes the school resource officers, I think they're training them better now. But back in the day, it was just some fat guy.
Yeah, if you were the school comp, you ain't solving murders at that police department.
Are they giving them guns now?
Oh yeah, they're armed.
Okay, and some people say the teachers should be armed. I feel like that's a lot to ask.
All the teacher comedians talk about that, and they say sometimes I want to.
I want to kill all of them. Don't give me a gun because I'll kill them all. Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying all the teachers will be armed, but lots of an armed presence at a school. So these people are attacking these places because they know their vulnerabilities. That's why they're doing it. Yeah. None of these school shooters, if school shooters started getting smoked on the front lawn, you'd see less school shooters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
we'd all love to go back to a time when we could not lock up our bicycles or our kids. But at this point, we need to have a well-trained militia at each school, whether that's
rooftop lasers.
Some rooftop, yeah.
You could use AI, because then you don't really have to have an employee. It could just
have the AI shoot who they perceive to be an intruder.
When I lived in Chicago, I used to go to this barbershop, and it was across the street from this big Catholic school. And my barber said, "I'm armed to the teeth in here," and he showed me in his back room, and this guy had guns, pistols, everything. And he said, if somebody tries some shit at this school, they got one security guard. And my barber's like, I will rain down hell if my kid goes there. And this dude was prepared because of Uvalde.
He hopes it happens.
All that
Shit.
stuff. Right across, it's like a straight shot.
Yeah. And the response for that in particular was just not, we're like, oh, we have to wait. We need more information. And then just like slaughterhouse. And
That's what I'm saying. I think that the school shooting issue is a bigger issue than just the gun. I think the gun is one small problem. It's a mental health issue and a lack of trained people at those schools that can handle it.
Yeah. And we need our cops to actually be heroes, unlike I think what happened with Uvalde or whatever. It's like, hey guys, if we're going to give you're allowed to kill people without really any repercussions, people get the book thrown at them if they even flick you in the nose, like, then you got to be heroes. That's the deal.
There was a mother that went in and got her son. I don't know if you guys heard about that. Mother showed up, got her way around the police barricade, yanked her kid out of the school, yanked her kid. And then there was other people, like a couple of these like cops that, there was people at the ready, but it was, they need trained people to handle those situations.
Right. Well, let's check in with our beloved candidates on how they feel about guns these days. Restricting gun ownership. Yeah, let's go bigger. In March, Harris called on every state to enact a red flag law and announced the Biden-Harris administration's creation of a national resource center to help states implement them. Harris called red flag laws one tool in addressing gun violence and said they can help get people help before tragedy occurs. Harris has long supported such laws and as Attorney General backed California lawmakers' efforts to pass one in 2014, which made the state one of the earliest to enact such a policy.
Of course it was. Okay, Trump, in 2019, Trump said he supported red flag law. What is that? Is that just like...
It's like if you are like an incel autistic person killing cats.
Like a crazy person, you have a felony, you've got things like that.
His administration abandoned the effort later that year under pressure from the NRA.
Okay, next. Okay, guns and background checks. So that's what we were really talking about. Harris announced new federal rules in April that require background checks to be done by sellers at gun shows and online, aiming to tighten a loophole through which buyers and sellers in certain venues have escaped background checks. Harris has long supported universal background checks and called on Congress to pass broader gun control legislation. Well, what is that? Broader? That could be anything. Yeah. I hate it when they do that.
And I don't know, the background checks, because what are the thresholds? Like if you have, let's say you have like possession of marijuana from 1990 or...
I know in some states, like if you have a marijuana card, right? Where I'm originally from, Michigan, if you have a medical marijuana card, you cannot get a permit to own a firearm. I would be probably safe to say it's probably that way in the other
It's so crazy
legal states.
Alcohol is much more likely to get you up and shooting people, whereas weed, it might be dangerous to be high with a gun, but you probably won't feel like killing anybody.
Yeah, so I guess that's my issue with background checks is like, where do you draw the line? And I could see how the very gung-ho Second Amendment people would be like, well, where do you draw the line? You're just... Anyway.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to see if someone's a criminal by running their fingerprints. Fingerprints, if they've ever been arrested, and then a provider signing something saying they're okay. I don't see that.
I guess I only ask because I'm also really passionate about like criminal reform, but that's a different episode. So Trump held a meeting with members of Congress at the White House after the Parkland, Florida mass killing in 2018. We have to keep guns out of the hands of those who pose a threat, and that includes background checks. So after pressure, same thing, after pressure from the NRA, they kind of backed off. In February, Trump told NRA members he would undo Biden's actions on guns and told them, no one will lay a finger on your firearms.
All right. Is there one more that we need to do? Oh, yeah. Concealed carry in schools. Okay, let's look at that. Harris criticized efforts to arm teachers. She supported a state law that required people to show good cause in order to carry a concealed weapon. She supports other policies backed by gun control groups that oppose allowing guns on college campuses.
And Trump, at an NRA event in April 2023, proposed a tax credit for teachers who want a concealed carry weapon on school grounds and who want training.
Okay, if it's teachers who want to.
I like that. He dismissed gun-free zones and touted concealed carry of guns for teachers and people of talent on school grounds. They always quote him. I guess he's very quotable. He later tweeted that he meant only a small percentage of teachers should. Well, in Florida, apparently you could just be a teacher. You don't have to really get trained or anything.
Okay, yeah, you
I am
definitely have to
curious-
be trained.
Really?
I am curious. Not in Florida.
As
There's
I'm
a
saying,
whole
you
thing.
should have to be trained. That's crazy.
I'm curious about the suing gun manufacturers, and then we can move on.
In 2019, her presidential platform included repealing the federal law that shields gun manufacturers from liability. She signaled support for a lawsuit against gun manufacturers by families whose children were killed at Sandy Hook, saying they deserve their day in court. The Biden-Harris administration has also called on Congress to repeal the law and urged states to hold gun makers accountable. You can't hold gun makers accountable for
No,
that's
it's
insane.
stupid.
That's
I
just,
was curious what they're.
God, I'm so ready to vote Kamala, and then she annoys me with that shit.
Yeah, Trump obviously opposes. He supports the gun makers and allows gun manufacturers to sell arms to foreign buyers more easily. He said, every single Biden attack on gun owners and manufacturers will be terminated my very first week back in office. He's going to have a very busy first week if he gets elected. He's ending the war in 24 hours. He's doing all
He's going to end the war in Ukraine. He's going to give everybody their guns back.
I hope he's got one of those good planners.
It's because he only sleeps 4 hours. I wish I could do that.
That's a
I
good
waste so
point.
much time sleeping.
All right, is that it?
Yeah.
Are we ready to vote?
Are we ready to vote?
Are you ready, kids?
Okay, in terms of gun shit, who do we think we most align with now? I'm still going for Kamala, for the Democrats at this point. I think it's a little, I don't know.
I like the background checks, and I like that she's making it harder to obtain the guns. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm all over the map.
Yeah, I think because I side more with the fact that it's a mental health issue.
Yes.
And I think we touched on this in the trans rights in schools thing. Like, actually, every episode, it's just the heart of it is the mentality, mental health, and just not being shitty people. Honestly,
We should maybe work on that, which is why I wanted RFK to be our president.
I mean, does Europe have this problem?
Well, a lot of them don't even have guns. But I mean, every now and then they stab each other, but not that much.
I mean, this isn't a problem anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, I have been watching some European shows, and I'm like, why doesn't he just shoot him? And I'm like, oh, there's no.
That's boring to watch a TV show.
No, but it's cool. You get to see. I've been
true.
doing. I
Yeah.
started studying
Fencing.
film fight, so it's pretty cool.
All right, Jason, where can people find you?
You can find me on the internet at Poopy Turds McGee on Instagram, Poopy Turds McGee 1.5 on TikTok, and on YouTube too.
Oh shit!
Oh.
I was trying to make it smooth.
Should we give that? You can give it. It won't hurt my feelings. But
What is
I'll
that?
give it.
I don't know.
It's a pen, but
I didn't
it's
know your
also
name was
Poopy Turds McGee.
Poopy Turds
Poopy
McGee.
Turds McGee. It's so cute. This is America. It's in the shitter.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
doing this.